gotta tell somebody.
This is the best thing I've ever seen.
That. Let's talk about that.
You need this. Listen to this.
Memorable and exciting.
Well, then be less boring.
I'm going to tell everyone. Wait here.
Mighty remarkable, Big Daddy. Remarkable.
Welcome to Remarkable, a podcast for B2B marketers that deconstructs the most iconic moments in film, television, pop culture, and advertising for a single purpose: to give you, the B2B marketer, the same storytelling techniques that the pros use. In each episode, you will learn techniques from Hollywood, Pixar, Marvel, and beyond, from Spielberg's hands to yours, bringing remarkable content ideas to you every single week. I'm Ian Faison, CEO of Caspian Studios. This is Remarkable. This week, we're talking marketing lessons from friends with our friends, the help of our special guest, CMO and head of AI Center of Excellence at 2X, Lisa Cole. Lisa, how are you?
I'm great. I've been really excited about this conversation for lots of reasons, including my love of friends. Yeah. Indeed.
We're going to dig into your background, what y'all are doing at 2X from content and marketing perspective and for your customers, and friends. So why the heck did you pick friends to talk about today?
Well, I think you could say I'm obsessed with the show. I have been for what feels like now almost 2 decades. But I have found that when I mention the TV show Friends, or if I make subtle references to Friends, I tend to find my people.
Okay, look. If you're going to be moving in with him, I feel that it is my responsibility to tell you the truth about him. Okay, he's a terrible roommate. Terrible. He forgets to. He always. Oh my goodness, he's the best roommate ever.
And so it just seemed like the right thing to bring up.
Amazing. Before we get into that, tell us about your role, your three-headed role. Like, what is it? Cerberus who guards Hades? Isn't it a three-headed dog?
Well, now I have a visual for this role. But yes, I'm the Chief Marketing Officer, also lead our product organization, as well as our AI Center of Excellence. And I do that for a company called 2X, which is a global B2B marketing managed services firm. It's a next-gen subscription services provider, helps enterprise marketers scale marketing impact without scaling costs. And so the reason I wear the 3 hats, that three-headed monster, is because you could argue that the marketer of a marketing services company has to do a really good job at practicing what you preach. 2, because I'm embedded in working closely with marketers, our customers, I understand what unmet needs still exist today. So that should inform our product roadmap. And 3, I don't know that anyone can talk about marketing today without talking about AI's impact on marketing. And so I just kind of sit at the intersection of those 3 and driving it forward. Yeah.
Amazing. And we'll get into how you think about marketing and content and brand later on in the episode. Meredith, so no one told you life is going to be this way. Your job's a joke, you're broke, your love life's DOA. It's like you're always stuck in second gear when it hasn't been your day, your week, your month, or even your year. But what the heck is Friends?
Let me tell you, what an intro. The thing I wanted to share most about Friends is that it was supposed to be called Insomnia Cafe, which doesn't really have the same feel to it, I would say. But that's the name that the show was developed under. And it was created by David Crane and Marta Kaufman. They had worked together on an HBO show called Dream On, which I wasn't familiar with, but they had a wonderful time working on and developing together. So together they were like, we want to make a sitcom about our experiences living in New York City specifically. And Crane said, we just been living it, that point in your life when your friends are your family. Kaufman added, and we wanted to write something we would watch. And so they're sort of using themselves as their target audience.
Do you guys think you could close your eyes for just a sec?
Oh, no. I'm not falling for that again.
What's going on? Well, I sort of did a stupid thing last night.
What stupid thing did you do? Buongiorno tutti.
But they started developing the show in 1993 and ended up submitting their pilot script the following year. And the show actually had other titles as well. 6 of One was one of them, and Friends Like Us was another. And I just love like hearing what things were supposed to be called, because now it's like, how could it be called anything but Friends, you know? And for this show specifically, I feel like casting was super, super important. And they went into it having a really good idea of who they wanted in each role for each character. Courtney Cox was, there are subtle differences. Courtney Cox was actually supposed to play Rachel at first, but they decided she was better as Monica. And they both wanted Matthew Perry and Jennifer Aniston to be certain roles, but they weren't actually technically available. They were already supposed to be in other shows. And so Kaufman and Crane kind of like held their breath, hoping that those shows wouldn't go forward, and they were right. And so they got all the actors that they wanted, but they said the magic really happened when all 6 actors were together. Kaufman said, I remember the atmosphere being electric. When the 6 of them got on stage together, I literally got a chill up my spine and thought, this is special.
What is that noise?
You! It's the chick. She's going through some changes.
So they just had this feeling that like the chemistry was there. This was going to be something really fantastic. And Crane said, we had absolutely no idea what this show was going to be. For us, it was just another pilot. We just had a series canceled. We were thinking we'd never work again. So we were scrambling. You pitch a bunch of stuff. We were doing this thing at Fox and at NBC. Friends was feeling good, but it was just another pilot. So their feelings about it, like their gut feeling was like, this is special, this is good. But they were like, we don't know how this is going to be received by sort of a wider audience.
Yeah, well, and I would say too, like, we have to look at it back from like 90s television viewing, which is just so different from today, right? Where like, there's no plot. There's no, like, you know what I mean? Like Cheers or, you know, whatever, like all these shows like this, which we'll get into here in a second, but like, all the shows are like that around this time had nothing. So like, yeah, of course, all it is the 6 of them on stage.
Yeah.
Doing what? Like, this is why Insomnia Cafe works, is like, all they do is go to a coffee shop and like talk about life. So I think obviously I was not in the room or pitching TV shows back in 1991, but like, I think that I could imagine that for them, everything did all run together a little bit, because it's not really an idea for a show beyond like, it's people in their 20s that are, you know, living in apartments that they definitely can't afford, you know, across the hall from each other. Mm-hmm. So I think that that's like part of it too, is like, of course it was forgettable, but then the show is the 6 of them, right? Like Cheers it's a bar and it's the people that are there, you know, et cetera. So yeah, it seems like it makes sense.
Yeah. It does.
Lisa, I don't know if you have any thoughts there.
Yeah, no. But look, I think there obviously is a chemistry piece to it. That is what makes that show work so well. But you know, to your point, there wasn't a planned plot line. It was like every episode was somebody was wrestling with something, and the other 5, you know, surrounded themselves and supported each other in thick and thin, gave advice, or sometimes just kind of sat in it with them as they were kind of navigating those challenges. It's fascinating dynamic, right?
Yeah.
And every episode was the one with, and inevitably, if you look at the one with, it was someone, whatever they were wrestling with, the problem or the opportunity, like there was, and they would all cycle around that moment.
Haven't you ever been unemployed?
Hey, I am not unemployed. I'm on sabbatical.
Hey, don't get religious on me, okay? A guy in your position needs to be a little better at relaxing, you know? Or why do you think we have the comfortable chairs, huh? Look, come here, sit down.
Yeah, it was great. And then you look back on the whole series, you realize the plot line was them.
Yeah.
Yes.
The craziest thing. But yeah, wonderful show. And that's some of what when I think about just even my career, the most memorable teams I've had been lucky enough to lead. It was the chemistry piece. It really was. And even though our career paths have taken us in different directions since, that team that I thought really, really did work a lot like that show.
Yeah.
We're all still in each other's lives.
This is a total tangent, but I'm actually obsessed with that idea. I think about that all the time. I think about the idea that like you work with a group of people once in your career and then people go off and do other things and you never work with that group of people ever again. And anyways, I have many startups ideas around this thing, but like I think that's just like such a fascinating piece of like, and obviously it wouldn't be the same, but I think that the idea that they are the same and forever, and these characters with all these episodes, and that's something that all of us can go back to anytime we want and hang out with them and see the scene when they get the duck and see all the other things, like, makes it so special.
One thing you brought up was the sort of dynamic of Cheers. And what's interesting is the same guy directed Friends that directed Cheers. And when he signed on to the show, everybody was like, oh, this is going to be good. And actually, his name is James Burrows. He was the one who really advocated for it because they pitched the pilot to NBC. And it was actually the then president of NBC, Warren Littlefield, who thought that the pilot actually started off really slow because in the first episode, they're just in the coffee shop, just like talking for the first several minutes and not a lot happens. And they're just like, you're just kind of like figuring out their dynamic by watching. And James Burrows was like, no, this is how it's supposed to happen. He was the one who stepped in and was like, this is actually great. And this sets us up for a great series. And so he was the one that ended up advocating for how special this show was going to be when Warren Littlefield couldn't see it. And when they showed it to an audience, their response told them everything they needed to know because they were on board. Like, it was clear that the audience wanted this sort of emotional storytelling. And somebody, I think it was Matt LeBlanc, called it like kind of like an emotional soap opera. And so what became important was their relationships and the way they support one another. And Kaufman said one crazy lesson from the show was that everything was better with the six of them. Sometimes it was better to hear them talk about something that happened rather than see it dramatically. What the audience wanted, we had to learn, was the six of them in the room. And she was like, that's it. That's what they want.
We're waiting for you to open the door. You've got the keys.
No, I don't.
Yes, you do. When we left, you said, got the keys.
No, I didn't. I asked. Got the keys?
No. You said, got the keys.
Either of you have the keys?
But overall, the show was on for 10 years. There was over 230 episodes. It's been watched more than 100 billion times across platforms. And that's just on streaming platforms too. So it's not even like, if you buy the DVDs or whatever. So it's,
Funny that you say that. I have the DVD sets. I
so good.
Totally burned it out on Netflix until it was removed and moved off of Netflix. And I'm not the only one. I have found other people like me
literally hundreds of millions of people.
I guess you could say the anniversary show where they did bring everyone back together and they had an opening montage that were fans all around the world at all different ages, races, countries, right? All basically saying the same thing. I have the DVDs. I watched it when it was live on TV. I had the DVDs. I followed it here, was heartbroken. Now I'm on a plane and there's only 3 episodes and they're not even connected to each other, right? They're not even the same season. And I'll watch those 3 episodes on a plane.
I love that.
Random. I don't even care about them being in chronological order at this point.
Is there like a specific storyline that you followed the most closely?
Oh, well, I think it would be cliche if I said Ross and Rachel, right? I think I was a romantic in that one, but it was interesting. I think it probably over time, it was just, I was fascinated with the pairings. Like there were clearly pairings in this, right? Joey and Chandler and their evolution in the closing scene where Chandler talks about the house that they bought.
Joey, now that you're okay with the house, do you want to go see your room?
What? I get my own room?
You don't think we'd buy a house and not have a Joey room, do you?
Oh my God. Hey. Oh. Hey, can I have an aquarium and a sex swing?
No.
Why not? I'll keep the tank clean.
So even though their paths are diverging, they're saying, of course we would have something for you. How could we ever go down our own path without making sure that there's room for you? Like those moments, it wasn't just the six. It was also watching how the friends also had their besties. Even there was an episode where they were debating on who was, which one's best friends. But it's, yeah. Wow, I hadn't even really thought about that a little bit. But I'd love to say it was Rachel and Ross. And of course, it was great to see how they ended. But it was probably the one-off relationships that were clearly strong that they had with each other. It was interesting.
Yeah.
The show is really about the six of these people and how they become friends, but also it's really about how we become friends with them. You know what I mean?
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Right. It's funny how we always, to that point, there might be people you say, oh, I'm totally Ross, or I'm totally Monica. We all probably identify. We say the one we want to be thought of but probably some element of one of the other characters no, I'm probably more like her.
Probably Phoebe.
Right? I want to stand the romantic that the Rosser, but I realize I'm Monica. At the end of the day, it's just random thing. But it's so funny. We all can identify with one of them. That's
definitely.
For sure.
Yeah, I think I have to be Chandler in this, and if I'm forced to choose one, because I'm just definitely not Ross, and nobody is Joey. But I think a couple things that really jump out to me. So is in the creation when they realize that the six of them have to be in the room together to make the best magic. It's so true. It's not something I would have realized watching the show unless I was really paying attention from a screenwriter perspective or director perspective. And then when you read that quote, you're like, oh my gosh, of course, right? Because the show is sort of predicated on sort of two people in a conflict about something, trying to figure something out. They're yelling, and then the one-liner from Joey or the one-liner from Phoebe, or so it's them sort of being able to have that little piece there. It's so true that when they're all there together, that's what makes it best. And it's very Cheersian in that way as well. Not that I watched Cheers when I was a kid or anything, but I think that, that sort of ensemble where you don't even need equal airtime in the scene, that Joey just needs to sit there for the entire scene and then say one line, and it's going to sort of bring the house down. And that's great. That's such a great insight. I love that.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because the very moment you said that, there was the when the twins get taken home from the hospital.
Oh, yeah.
And everybody's in the room. And Joey was the last to actually realize that there were two of these twins that were brought home. And you could see his face. And Chandler's something get there faster. Faster. That one comment and that whole scene was just that one Joey not picking up on the clue fast enough, where everybody else is wow, there are twins, and how are we going to do this? And this show still clueless. Okay, get you faster. Anyways.
I guess he wasn't supposed to be such a kind of dopey character in the beginning. And it was during auditions or whatever, where some of the other actors were Matt LeBlanc plays dumb really well. And they were oh, let's play with that. And that's when they were all right, let's get him there. And I love that that's sort of carried him through the whole 10 years. It's the best.
The great Joey line for me is, if I'm not back in 5 minutes, just wait longer. So good.
No.
And I think this is an Ace Ventura 1 or 2 as well. Just one of the great lines. Such a great line.
Longer lines. That would be one.
Yeah, it's just so good. Yeah, for me, the episode, I forget, they get is it 2 recliners or 1 recliner?
Oh, I think that was 2.
Is it 2? It's 2, right? Because they both...
Joey?
Yeah. And they both recline at the same time. Man, that is every... And maybe this is just a dude thing. I don't know how you all feel. But I can remember when I got the reclining... I got a single couch, those double recliners. That moment, there's no feeling of I have made it in this world than when you first sit on, when you hit the leg thing and you're leaned back and you're just oh my gosh, this is the greatest feeling. That's a great.
The combination of the TV and the recliners, and them figuring out how to rig the system to get their neighbors, their friends, to bring their food to them so that they didn't even have to get out of the chairs like that.
Yeah.
That whole, that's funny.
I think it's such a great insight that them actually doing the action is not the interesting thing. It's them talking about it. This is the same takeaway from The West Wing, that when Sorkin was writing West Wing, he was saying that the show has to be in the West Wing. It can't be like, if there's a bomb, I don't want to see the bomb. I want to see what is their reaction to the bomb. And I think that that's so true in Friends, where it's like, it doesn't matter who's like in a relationship or what's going on or whatever it is. It's like them reacting and overreacting and playing dumb and all the other things that like happen in their relationship. And it's why the show just feels like so incredibly lived in. And I think part of that is because their interpersonal relationships are like so crossed. Like the wires are so unbelievably crossed. They're roommates and brother and sister and high school friends. And like, it's so convoluted that it makes you feel seen, right? Because you have one of those relationships in your friend group, right? Where it's like somebody's little sister or somebody's, older brother, or like someone's ex-roommate or someone's current roommate, or, oh, you need to pick, are we all going to move in together? Or are we going to move closer to it's like all these little things that just make it feel like very realistic, even though it's like the least realistic show ever.
It's true. There are lots of those that are very much realistic. I think the only thing that's not realistic is just the places that they lived in.
The places they live.
Everything else felt realistic, but I think we all questioned that even back then.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the reason why I say it's realistic is because it feels like a sitcom, where it's like, it just feels like the laugh track is like brutal. Obviously, like, if does that technology exist? Can we cut out the laugh track? Like, for me personally, I'm a bit of a laugh track snob. But that's what I mean when it feels like super fake, because you're just like, it just feels like a stage sitcom. Whereas like, a more modern telling of this, or like Girls is a great example of like, Girls feels you're like in the moment, in the scene, in the whatever sort of craziness that they have going on.
Agreed.
Okay, marketing takeaways from Friends. What do you got for us?
Well, I think the first one, I would say pivot.
Here we go. Pivot. 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 Pivot.
Shut up! Shut up! Shut up!
I don't know that I have said any one word anymore in the last 2 to 3 years than I have the word pivot. And inevitably, someone in the equation, whoever I've said it to, there's somebody that wants to keep doing the same things over and over and over again and expecting a different result. Then there are the others that are trying to find an easier way to navigate through it. But pivot is certainly one, especially now that it seems like every week there's a new advancement that's, from an AI perspective, that's forcing marketers to think, oh, great, traditional search doesn't work. Now I need to find a way to be visible in an AI model. And wow, it's a totally different strategy that needs to happen over there. Or, their buyers are shifting from one social media platform to another. They're moving from one community to another. I think marketing as a whole is like pivot. We're constantly in the period of time in between pivots is compressing. So that's one.
But what's so funny though is with the pivot scene is like you always have that person who's like shouting directions and you get so mad at that person because you're like, I can, like, my face is stuck against the wall. I can't move my arms even, Anyways.
And that was Chandler. 100%.
Yeah. Pivot.
Yeah.
That's funny. Okay. All right. Second lesson.
Well, and this is just when I think about brand, right? Building brand. And I think at some point we'll talk a little bit about content strategy, but what does it take for brands to win today? You have to create a place, or at least advocate or support, sponsor, invest in creating a place where your target audience, your buyers, feel safe to get together and meet and engage as a community, like where they're having that conversation, where the 6 of them are getting together and they're talking candidly about their fears, their needs, their wants, and that they're not worried about being sold to. They're not in any sort of danger. And in Friends, Central Perk is that's that place where they always felt like they could go. They were welcomed, right? They were like, nobody got up in the middle. Well, occasionally maybe somebody delivering coffee, right? But for the most part, that was a safe place for them to just be the 6 of them, like to be the friends and to talk about like what was happening in the world and give each other advice or even just listen to each other. Nobody really was doing anything except offering support in that place. So I think brands today, whether it's something you create a Central Perk or whether you are supporting Central Perk or you make sure that Central Perk lives on another day so that your 6 buyers, you're buying in, like that they have a place that they can go and be themselves and talk to each other and trust each other. And then by design, if you care about Central Perk for your buyers, then they'll care about you too. Like I think that's what it's going to take to win now, especially in this age of AI where we're getting, unicorn startups that are, stealing the attention from these brands because they're more human. Like those founder-led, creator-led unicorns are saying, look, I've walked a mile in your shoes. Like, here's everything I learned, good, bad, or indifferent. They're building in public, right? They're sharing their lessons learned. They're sharing the things that they wouldn't do again, that they're sharing what is working for them. And they're fostering these communities where people feel like it's okay to be amongst friends and not have to filter their thoughts and not be sold to. So can you foster a Central Perk for your buyers?
Love that. All right, number 3.
I want to go back to the cast chemistry thing. I know we've hit on it, but I think that matters. And I'm not necessarily saying to marketers that this cast needs to be, a large in-house marketing team. I'm just simply saying that the people that are in the day-to-day business of executing marketing for your organization, that there is a chemistry between them and that they are working together in a unified way. We talked a little bit about like the dynamics there. Sometimes there are surprising connections amongst that group. Sometimes it's the chemistry that matters more than the expertise of that person, right? It's the way that they work together that sometimes is the real magic. And it's not necessarily that I brought together 6 experts. I brought together 6 people that actually really genuinely want to work together towards some sort of mutual goal. And those 6 people may or may not report directly to you. They may or may not be in your personnel budget. They could be an outsourced team. They could be an in-house marketer. It could be partners, right? Employed in totally different organizations, but that somehow they're all working towards one mission. So I think that's the other, like the cast chemistry.
I love this idea. So, and I'll say that I'm going to use the term cool because cool can mean a lot of different things.
Yeah.
That the thing that was so nice about the Friends group, why you want to hang out with them so much, is like that they're all cool. And like, they're all cool in their own way, right? They're all weird in their own way. They might be like nerdier or shy or, outgoing or all over the place. But like, they're all really cool. It doesn't hurt that they're all extremely attractive. I should also say that, like, if you're making a TV show, it does not hurt to make them easy on the eyes, without a doubt.
Right.
But since we're not making a TV show, or are we? That for your team, I think that people talk about, you mentioned build in public, about sort of like the founder-led growth, about things like that. I think there's also an element to this of like actually opening the curtains on the team behind it. Mm-hmm. This is a lot more rare, and you don't see it as much. One of the things when we first started making Remarkable back in like the first episode of this, so 150 plus episodes ago, was we talked about like, could we just show, like, it's so hard show versus show don't tell, right? It's so hard to do that. And we're like, how can we make Caspian's brand and like the work that we do for our clients, which is fun, and like we're a fun group of people, and like we are working on creative problems with our clients, how can we show that? And it's like, well, if we make a show that's fun, that we're having fun making, and we can showcase a little bit of that, then maybe that can sort of like, people can get a sense of our personality. And so that was like core to like why we built this show the way we built it. And it's evolved over time into the format that we have now. But that was like really important to us. And I think you could get a lot more leverage if you're doing sort of like the founder brand type stuff, if you're showing people interacting rather than just telling, because I think the interaction shows you so much more about like who the person is than just the teaching part. And again, I don't think anyone's like really doing this to my knowledge. There's a little bit here and there, but but I think that that's an opportunity.
I agree. I hadn't really thought about it that way. Although when I think back on some of the teams I've had the benefit of supporting and leading in time, each one of them, has certainly been a focus and introducing them to others and introducing their work to others. But I don't know that I've necessarily ever been as intentional about in the moment building in public with that team, with the collective team building in public and the interactions between us. I think I'll take that as my takeaway. That feels like a good opportunity for me. I agree. That would make a difference. I think part of the, certainly cool is one way to think about it. I have found, at least in marketing, I have found that we want to see almost like a humbleness, right? So they're not perfect. Oh, they're just like me. Oh, they're worried about that, just like I am. Oh, they experienced that and look, they didn't get the result that they thought they were going to get. But here's what they are sharing. Like they're not afraid to be themselves.
Yeah.
And they are humble and they're not pretending to have all the answers. I think back on my career journey, I don't know that I ever really felt comfortable enough in my skin.
Yeah.
Probably a couple of years ago where I think I started realizing what my own value or my value of my team would be, where I didn't have to be polished and corporate anymore. Like I could just be myself and offer my genuine opinion and be okay showing the warts of the things that didn't work out so well. Not that everything had to be perfect. But I think that might be a critical piece of that, right? The cast, the 6 people that you're following, that they're also humble too. Right?
Yeah. And I think I don't know if you have a good example of someone who's a humble leader that stands out. Because the hard part is, like, humble has a very sharp double edge of the sword, which is that you don't talk about yourself. And that's really bad, right? Like, unequivocally, it's bad in business if you don't talk about yourself. Because talking about yourself is called marketing. So like,
I know.
Right. If you're not telling your own story, if you're not telling your company's story well enough, you're not talking about yourself enough, you're not talking about your wins enough, like that's bad too. So it is, I have someone in mind, but curious to your thoughts.
I do. Look, I don't know that, I'll just put this out there and so that it's not intended to be self-serving, but I think our CEO, Dom, I think he's a great profile of a humble leader. So you may or may not know this, but I was a former 2-time customer of 2X. I used this model to help me get out of some pretty impossible situations, like truly nightmarish, impossible situations. I used this model. I didn't realize just how fast and, how successful the business had grown through the years. Because he wasn't bragging about 2X to me. He had been originally founded the model because he was a CMO and he wanted to help other people deal with like some of the challenges that he dealt with. And then, when I made a decision, hey, what do I want to do with the next phase of my career? And I had reached out to him because, again, he was one of my vendor partners at the time. He was like, we absolutely need to do a better job of not just telling our own story as a company, but we need to do a better job of telling our customers' stories of how their wins, nothing to do with our services, but through it, I realized I'm like, if this man had talked at all about himself or 2X about, through the 7 or 8 years that I had been a customer, I probably would have looked or leaned in much faster to become part of the organization because I liked it. There's something there. I did ask him about it. Like, hey, how is it you're not talking a lot about yourself? Like, as you built the model on the company based on your own experiences, like you're a credible CMO. He's just not comfortable talking about himself. Like, it's probably the best kept secret in terms of the catalyst of why he founded the business. And it did scale, and it scaled because the customers themselves within their little communities shared like, hey, this is how I dealt with this problem. This is how I dealt with the budget problem. This is how I dealt with this resourcing issue. And then he recognized, he's like, all right, I know this is a gap. So I'm going to surround myself with others that'll do a better job at telling the story, which is why I'm the company's first CMO.
Amazing.
To be the company's storyteller. And a part of the piece to that was I'm also a former customer. So you can't get a better storyteller than somebody that was the former customer of the organization. Anyway, so I would put Dom in there. I think my peers certainly would say that he falls in that profile. Yeah. I would love it if he would talk a little bit more about himself and the things he's done through the years, but I'll keep working on it for sure.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah. I mean, there's so many CMOs that say that. They're like, I wish that people could meet the CEO that I get to hang out with on a daily basis. I think that's pretty common.
Yeah.
And one that I would shout out is Eric Ries from Lean Startup. He is like the most confident person in sort of like his, like, if you've ever listened to him talk about any type of, product development or anything like that. And he's invented like basically any single phrase of product development of like the modern startup movement is like he invented like half of the terminology when he wrote his book. He's someone who every time I listen to him, I learn. He's got that sort of that sage, that rabbi, that, senior philosopher type feel to him, but also like very much saying like, listen, I don't know. That's part of my whole thing is I don't know, and neither do you. So we should both jump into this thing with a sort of beginner's mindset. And I think that that's like part of it too, is humble means you sort of that, you may know what happened in the past, but you don't have a crystal ball in the future. So you have to sort of constantly reassess and adapt, which is, I think, like when I was 28, that's not how I was, right? You think you know everything because you just know what, but as you get older, you realize like, only thing constant is change. And like, you have to be ready for what's next, not be an expert at what used to happen.
Yeah. I do think that we're in a period of time where there are very few, if any, that know how to navigate this next phase. So it's almost like those that were not humble are about to experience some difficult times.
Indeed. Okay, let's talk about 2X, and specifically, let's start with your book. So you just published a book called Brand Gravity: How to Create Magnetic Pull in the Age of Buying Groups. Buying groups, obviously, so tricky these days. People getting information from everywhere, massive buying groups. Now, all these different tools that people are swipe a credit card, 50 different people using 50 different things. Yeah, tell us about the book.
Well, it was really, at the end of the day, I think marketers have known for a few years that companies don't buy the way we think they do or the way they should, right? And so
Lisa, they go through the funnel. Don't you know that? Yeah, they go from awareness, desire, interest, action.
Yeah, and by the way, like the stages of the opportunity pipeline, that might be the way you want to sell. That's not the way that they want to buy. And the timeline that your sales organization might want someone to make a purchasing decision within the quarter on your time, like that's also not a thing. We've known, and we've had more than enough data that's told us like there's a math. The math isn't mathing, right? You can generate 1,000 leads and be lucky if one results in a sale. Like there's just something wrong with that math. There's just so much waste. But we didn't have any data that really validated what was happening. Like how are companies researching for solutions to their problems? How are they evaluating them? How are they making a decision? Until Sixth Sense had published a buyer experience research study and released it, I think it was last October. But it's one of 4 different studies. So I think Winter, Forrester, Sixth Sense, and I think there was one other, Trust Radius. There were 4 totally unrelated studies that were all focused on like, how do companies buy solutions to their problems? And they all basically came back and said, number one, there's a lot of people involved in this buying committee that have wildly different needs and wants in that decision-making process. They're not at all the same. Like, this is like us thinking the 6 friends in the apartment, because they're the same demographics, live in the same place, have the similar income levels, that they're all the same. Like, no, they're not. They all have their own unique needs. The second piece is that, it's longer, much longer, and most of it's anonymous, right? So no, you actually don't know until they want you to know and have made a decision. They likely have picked their preferred vendor or partner before they're willing to even talk to your sales rep. So anything after that happens, that moment is just validating or invalidating what they've learned. And let me offer that they would prefer not to be wrong, right? So in that process, if you want to invalidate what they've learned, it's going to be a hard swim upstream. Anyway, so this data came out from all 4 of these research studies. And then if you really think about that, I wrote the book to say, if you agree that this data is true, and 4 independent research studies, at this point, we should probably just say, if it quacks like a duck, it walks like a duck, it's probably a duck, right? There's another random Joey Chandler reference. But in that process, what do you have to do differently? We have to stop acting like that funnel thing is actually going to work, right? We're not doing something to someone. We have to start figuring out, how do we become the enablers of how companies really want to buy? And to do that, marketing, sales, a whole go-to-market function has to behave differently. They have to think, act, invest differently. And so brain gravity is meant to say, if you believe this is true, here's a 7-step process as a marketer that you should be following to kind of change the way you think, act, and invest differently. And that includes everything from making sure that you have visibility to when companies initiate their research, right? That there are technologies that's out there that will tell you when a company has started some sort of research process, even if they've not actually reached out to your company. There is an investment in building enough digital mass online. And this is to that founder, creator-led dynamic that we're seeing, where people are building in public and they're putting out smart and helpful content. They're giving lessons learned. That works because it pulls people in. It's answering the questions people are asking in a variety of different watering holes. And the content is just so valuable to them that they will spend hours with you. They'll consume that. They'll binge listen to your YouTube videos. They'll actually make sure to follow you on other channels. They'll do whatever they can to continue to consume from you because they know that you have the answers to the challenges that they're trying to solve. And by the time they actually make a decision to reach out to the company or to the brand to talk to them about moving forward, they already know, like, trust you. They already feel like they've been sitting in Central Perk with you. Like, that's what brain gravity is really focused on, is how do you actually pull people towards you and then keep them in your orbit or keep them with you until they are ready to move forward. And sometimes they might want to move forward, but there could be some organizational dynamics. There could be budget constraints. There could be things that are out of their control and your control. But when they are ready to move forward, they already trust you. And so the basic premise of the book is build enough digital mass in such a way that aligns with how your buyers actually want to buy, make it easy for them to make that research and decisions. And, that gravity that gets created from that digital mass keeps them with you until they want to buy. And so that's what the book is based on. Yeah.
And should I say it's available right now on Prime if you want to go check it out, or on whatever.
All places you want to buy books, right? So any retailer, Amazon. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So funny enough, we just did a recent episode of this podcast on Steph Curry, and we talked about the term gravity, because there's this term in basketball for specifically as it relates to Steph Curry of when he goes to the 3-point line, 2 defenders fly to him and it creates all this space for other people to score. And that's like part of the reason why the Warriors have been so good for so long is because Steph's gravity impacts every single play. And we were talking about the idea of brand gravity on this is before this episode, and I knew the this book. But yeah, I think it's a great way of looking at things. And I think I forget, gosh, Meredith, I don't know if you remember, but we had a recent guest on this podcast talking about the difference between sort of your stock price and your, what is it, market cap, or I forget whatever. That delta, that is your brand. And, whatever your stuff, like, he was the person, right? Yeah. Then the person was talking about how they're like, everybody talks about how, or like, oh, CFOs don't believe in brand, and, nobody believes in brand and all this sort of stuff. And it's like, but in the stock market, they have a thing that's extremely clear of how much brand is worth. And so we should probably, show that to our bosses. And I'm rounding into a question here, which is one of the things that you all have on your website, which I have never seen for a company that sells to marketers, is an area called the CFO Resource Center. And I think that's, and it says turn marketing from a cost center into a growth lever. And I love it.
It's an acknowledgement too that there are more people involved in these decisions than just the marketer, right? And by the way, the marketer, right now has been looking for ways to be a better partner to CFOs, right? Yeah. That they are viewed as a growth driver. It's part of their earning and keeping their seat at the table, so to speak.
Yeah. And I think part of the problem, like we mentioned earlier, is like if we see funnel as a linear thing, and that's what we've taught everyone. That's what we've taught CEOs and CFOs and the CRO and everybody else. We've all been trained and drilled on this funnel that this is how it works. So like everyone, we agree on this one thing, and that thing is wrong now. It's like we need to re-educate everyone on the buying experience, which has changed dramatically.
Yes. And I think the way to do that, and it's not a magic bullet, right? There is no such thing as a magic bullet for this problem. We did spend decades training people that this is a thing that's effective, is to remind people or ask them how the last, like when they buy things as an individual consumer, that's let's say a big ticket item, a house, a car, whatever that might look like for you, how did they actually buy?
Yep.
Was it through a funnel? Was it? Yeah, it probably wasn't. Or if they don't remember the last time they personally bought something that felt like a considered purchase, like a big purchase, I'm sure they participated in or had visibility to a major purchasing decision for their companies, their own companies. And how did that play out? And you can ask then questions like, at what point in time were you willing to talk to a sales rep? Where were you in your evaluation process? Did someone on that committee already have a point of view of who the top providers were and why? Because to be clear, none of us are reaching out and talking to, more vendors than we feel like we need to. Like that's just going to slow down the decision-making process and can be pretty hard. So the fast way to re-educate people is to maybe shine a mirror or point a mirror at their own purchasing habits.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. Before we get out of here, I just want to have two more things.
Yeah.
First one being, how do you think about building brand, building content at 2X?
For 2X, the way I've been thinking about it, just given the nature of the problems that we solve, it's very much to create that and foster that community, to be the support resource for, CMOs or actually go-to-market leaders in general. If you look at all of the content that we put out there, it's meant to help them solve problems that they're wrestling with today. So it's all meant to give away value in every interaction and every exchange. And it may or may not lead to a purchasing decision, but if we can help a go-to-market leader kind of navigate these crazy times, that's the smart investment on our part. So if we can position ourselves that way, that's the best way to do it. Now, part of the content strategy is not just what questions you're answering, what advice or tools, smart and helpful thought leadership that you're putting out there. It's also where you're making it findable. Like, sure, you can go ahead and create all these really helpful tools and information and resources to help them navigate their challenge in the way that they might solve the problem. But if they can't find it, what good is it? And so part of your content strategy is making sure that it's findable in their channel, their preferred channel, and in the format that they prefer it, and in the moment that they need it. Like, don't make it hard for them to find the answers to the questions. If anything, go out of your way to be everywhere all at once.
And then finally, what's your best piece of advice for CMOs who are trying to figure out their marketing brand content strategy?
Well, assuming the obvious, that they know who their buyers are, where those buyers are today, and the questions that those buyers are asking. Assuming they have all that information, is go out of your way. If you're the marketing leader for your organization, go out of your way to hold your organization accountable for enabling their preferred buying process. Like, don't just care about your swim lane. Sure, you might, work on making sure that your content's answering all the right questions. You may be making sure that that content is findable in the right channels. But if you do not care about that collective buying journey, and you're not working to influence the way that others in your organizations are engaging or not with that buyer, then it's going to fail anyways. So this means that you're going to have to care about the handoff and at what point it makes sense to engage or introduce and connect your sales rep to that account, to those potential buying influencers. You are going to have to care about what it is that they're sharing with them in those exchanges, that they're actually listening and not forcing them unnaturally through some process. You're going to have to show some courage. And so care about more than you swim lane is probably the thing I would offer.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
It has been such a wonderful conversation with you, Lisa. Thank you so much for joining. For our listeners, you can go to 2x.marketing to learn more. And then you can go check out Lisa's book, Brand Gravity, and find it anywhere books are found. We'll link that up in the show notes. Lisa, any final thoughts? Anything to plug?
The only thing I would offer, and this is more about 2X, we've mentioned it a couple of times throughout the way. While I'm offering advice to CMOs to care more about the whole buying journey, the other piece of advice would be, when you think about all that work that you have to do to be everywhere all at once, the answer to that isn't necessarily to try to build this large in-house organization. It's thinking about different operating models. So in the context of 2X, 2X is basically a B2B marketing managed services firms that help you scale the capabilities as you need them in a subscription model. So you're not locked into anything. Like, the model helps you scale in ways that you need it, when you need it. And if today you've got real gaps in your content library that would prevent you being able to answer all those questions, the answer shouldn't be to turn to your CFO and say, I need more headcount because I think I need 3 other writers to produce this. And then 6 months from now, there's not enough work for them, but now you need social media engagement because you've got to be findable in all these communities. I would strongly suggest you think about flexible operating models, regardless of the company that you work with. That's a great way to scale your impact without scaling your costs. Going back to that CFO connection again. Yeah.
Lisa, wonderful, fantastic. And again, people can learn more at 2x.marketing. Meredith, thank you again for all of your work as always today. And for our listeners, you can remember that we'll be there for you when the rain starts to pour, like we've been there before, because you're there for us too. And we appreciate that. Thanks so much to all of our friends out there, and have a good one.
Thank you.
Well, that's it for today. I hope you got some good ideas for your B2B content. Thank you for listening to Remarkable. I'm Ian Faison, CEO of Caspian Studios. Remarkable is created by the team at Caspian Studios, B2B podcast as a service. Caspian also creates fiction series for B2B companies, so if you want a business thriller, you can learn more at caspianstudios.com. Hollywood-style storytelling for B2B. And in today's episode, you heard from myself, Ian Faison, and Meredith O'Neill, senior producer here at Caspian Studios. Remarkable was produced this week by Meredith O'Neill, mixed by Scott Goodrich, And our theme song is Solomon by Falak. Be remarkable and rise above the noise.